It's 5:05 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, June 21st, and Axios is reporting as of about 10 minutes ago that the U.S. military has conducted airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities in multiple locations. My temper is holding on by a thread, so I am just going to read from the Axios reporting and intersperse with my own commentary. Why it matters: Trump's decision to intervene directly in support of Israel's effort to dismantle Iran's nuclear program marks a historic escalation in the Middle East. It's an intervention fraught with risks and uncertainty. An intervention? Why the fuck are you calling it an intervention? One that Trump and many of his predecessors have sought to avoid, including through diplomacy with Iran. Large part of why we are in this situation now is because of Trump backing out of the Iran deal in 2017 during his first administration. At the time, he called it, quote, protecting America from a bad deal. How's this? How good is this deal right now, Donnie? The attack, which came on the 9th night of an unprecedented war between Israel and Iran, could provoke retaliation from Tehran against U.S. troops and military installations across the region. Trump just risked the lives of our service members in the region. This war that we may now be barreling into is entirely the result of three narcissistic tyrants, their own fragile egos, grandiosities, and petty ambitions. How much suffering do we as a society allow a few tyrannical narcissistic men to inflict upon millions of people time and time again? I realize that Trump has surrounded himself with sycophants and yes men who are not going to stop him anywhere along the way. According to Axios, an Israeli official said that Israel was notified by the Trump regime in advance of the U.S. strikes. What they're saying, quote, we have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace, Trump just wrote on his Truth Social account minutes ago. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordow, he continued, referring to Iran's most fortified uranium enrichment facility. Trump also said, there is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Yeah, this is how we get to peace, by starting shit with Iran. This is how we procure peace for America. Axios said that in the days leading up to the strike, Trump and his team became increasingly convinced that diplomacy had run its course. What diplomacy? And that military action would be necessary to eliminate Iran's nuclear program. Trump completely ignored his own head of intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. And he also just announced 2 days ago on Thursday that he would make a decision in the next 2 weeks about Iran and that he would give them a final chance to negotiate. But apparently no, like anything that comes out of that man's mouth, you cannot trust it to be true. I said this in a video earlier today, that part of his flip-flopping, part of the chaotic like stochasticity of Trump's actions, how he says one thing, he does another. He insists he's got a plan and then he pulls it back and he pivots and does something else. That is meant to keep your head spinning. That is meant to make you feel unmoored. That is a psychological tactic as much as it is the fact that he is driven by his impulses. So apparently multiple B-2 stealth bombers capable of carrying 30,000-pound bunker busters were detected heading over the Pacific on Saturday, and people were starting to speculate that a strike would follow. Trump questioned Israel's capacity to take out the underground facility on its own, saying they can break through a little section, but they can't go down very deep. So how do all those MAGA who are deeply opposed to a war with Iran feel about this now? How do all those MAGA who said that Trump promised peace feel about this now? He is dragging us into a war in the Middle East again. We know that more Gen Xers voted for Donald Trump than any other demographic. Y'all, we lived through a prolonged Gulf War. How do y'all feel about this? Is this what you voted for? How do you feel about the fact that only Congress has the power to declare war? How do you feel about him going around Congress? What do you think Congress is going to do next? Continue to sit on their hands, continue to abdicate all of their power, continue to allow Donald Trump to act like a dictator and a king? How do y'all feel about this? How do y'all feel that he's going to drag our sons and daughters into a completely unnecessary war? Is this making America great again? How do you feel about him using this conflict to distract you from all of the ways that he's failing at home? This is a classic move of a failed leader who's deeply unpopular. Get your country embroiled in a foreign war and use that as an excuse to tighten your grasp on power, to try and drum up patriotism, to stress people out, to make them easier to control. How are y'all feeling? How's MAGA feeling about this? All y'all who voted for Trump, is this what you wanted? You want your sons and daughters to go die for this? You want billions of our taxpayer dollars being spent on this conflict that is manufactured so that Trump can claim to save us from it? Well, looks like that's what we might be getting now. All the more reason for us to stand in vocal opposition to the chaos of the Trump regime, the illegality of the Trump regime. All the more important for us to push for the restoration of democracy. This is the shit that happens when you have an impulsive tyrant with an incredibly brittle ego who surrounds himself with yes men who cannot be reasoned with, and he has the US military and trillions of dollars at his disposal.